Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Awkward Insurance. I am so excited to have a conversation with a wonderful Miss Judy Vaughn today. Judy, welcome.
Thank you so much. Hey, everyone.
I am so excited. I've been wanting to talk to you for so long. So Judy has been in commercial lines since 2007, I believe you said, but she's been in insurance for 27 years, and she is with the Kaiser Levitt Insurance Agency. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
So, one reason I am so excited to have you on this podcast today is Judy is the 2020, the year of destruction, 2020 National Alliance Outstanding CSR of the Year. And she has a video that's out there that we would love for you to go and find and check out. But in watching her video, I got all the feels when I found out that you found out you were the CSR of the Year on your birthday.
Yes, it was the weirdest call. I was like, this is not happening. This is really not happening.
Oh my gosh, what a birthday present. It was so exciting. And what's really fun about it is watching the video, and Danielle and Will were sitting there and just seeing their faces when they found out it was your birthday. It was so joyful. I loved it so much.
It was really cool to see the look on their face. They were like, holy cow, that's so awesome.
I wish we could have seen your face when it happened. Where, for the future, we need to be sending out the video crews as you're finding out. But then I guess that ruins the surprise.
It kind of is a surprise, but I saw on caller ID the name, and I was like, how weird. Wonder what this is about.
Uh-oh. It's a whole different feeling when I see it come across my caller ID. So in your video, though, I love the whole video, but in your video, there is a time when you say it takes a special kind of crazy to be in this industry. I want to know what kind of crazy you are.
I tell you, we call ourselves, and we were just talking about it here in the office today. We were talking about this podcast, and I was like, we are genuine nerds. We love insurance. And it's like, who says that?
And we all do, but it's so crazy because I never knew there were other nerds like me.
Right. And we laugh, and we go out to eat as a group, and we're like, oh, look at that exposure right there. Oh my gosh, they should have a caution sign on those stairs. The yellow tape should be on those stairs right there. Someone's going to fall. That's such an exposure. And it's like, seriously.
Oh my gosh, right?
Seriously.
We just had, okay, so here in Arkansas, what state are you in again? I'm sorry.
New Mexico.
New Mexico. We here in Arkansas, we just had record-breaking snowfall, right? 15 inches. And for anybody in the north that's listening and says that's just a dusting of snow, I don't want to hear it, because we in the south do not get 15 inches of anything but rain.
Right.
Maybe hell.
Exactly.
But never snow. So it literally brought our world to a screeching halt. But we've got some wonderful residents around where I live who got those ATVs out, those four-wheelers that they usually take duck hunting or deer hunting, and they're going around all over these roads. Their kids are riding them all over the driveways. I had to shut all my blinds. I couldn't do it. I could not watch it. Not only that, there was a car that was stuck in a huge ditch right behind my house. You're not going to believe this. Do you want to know how they tried to get this car out of the ditch?
The four-wheelers.
No, well, that would have been even more unbelievable. Actually, that would have been a little believable. No, they had two trucks, I assume four-wheel drive. But you know what four-wheel drive on ice means? Four-wheel spinning, right? So, yeah. So two trucks tied bumper to hitch, ropes, nothing legitimate, ropes in between these two trucks, then connected to this, it was an FJ Cruiser, down in this ginormous ditch behind my house, trying to pull this thing out of the ditch, and it went nowhere. It was hilarious. It took 30 minutes of wheels spinning for them to finally decide they weren't going to be able to do it, and then a police cruiser pulling up behind them to tell them they're being dangerous in the curve of a road, blocking the entire road, trying to pull this on ice. Like, who's going to be able to stop, right?
I guess it's good they didn't pull the bumpers off each other, though.
Well, I would assume I said bumper to hitch. I would assume that they tied it to whatever's under the bumper that's, the frame or whatever. I think they were a little smarter than that, but
Oh my
the
God.
point was is they weren't going anywhere. They were blocking the entire road on this bend in the road that we have that is notorious for accidents because of this bend on ice. Nobody had a winch. That's what you
No.
need to get these cars out of the
Oh
ditch
my.
with a winch. But I mean, just the whole scenario was like, oh, how many different ways can this go bad?
No, and then you'll be talking to, like, I was talking to a friend and we were, hey, I said, hey, do you have liability on your camper? And he goes, yeah, it's from my vehicle. And I go, okay, but once you disconnect, and he argued with me. And I was like, okay, you be the nurse and I'll be the insurance professional.
Right? Don't let me tell you how to do your job, so don't tell me how to do mine.
He called his Allstate agent. She goes, no, you don't have it once you disconnect. And he called me and he goes, you were right. And I'm like, woohoo, yay.
I'm not going to say I told you so, but I didn't not tell you
Yeah, and it's just
so.
little things in there, and I'm like, make sure you have coverage on that awning when it's out too, because there's a lot of times that's excluded on your policy.
You got it. A lot of agents don't know that.
Yeah,
I
and
think
I'm
the
like,
very first time that I figured it out, which was a long time ago, I was like, "What? Really?"
yeah, it's just the little things, and you're like, and he said, I said, you have an electric awning, and that's got to be like a couple $1,000s to fix, and we can get some high winds around here.
What's your major risk there in New Mexico?
It depends. Just blink your eye and the weather will change. We get a lot of wind though. We do get windy. It's about the time for us to get pretty windy.
Yeah, I know what you mean by blink your eye and the weather will change. I mean, one minute it was literally here in Arkansas, it was literally -1 one day, and 2 days later we're at 65 degrees.
Yeah.
It's insane.
In the mornings
Like,
we have the heater and in the afternoons we have air conditioning here.
oh my gosh, right? So, that kind of leads us. Well, actually, before we get into the conversation today, I asked you what kind of special kind of crazy you are. Give me a little bit of background about your history in insurance.
Well, I had my son, he was about 9 months old, and a friend of mine worked in a small independent agency and she goes, hey, we're looking for a part-time file clerk. And I thought, wow, adult conversation. So I started part time and that lasted for 3 days. They put me into personal lines and handed me a book after 3 days. And I was like, what was I thinking? And then I'm thinking, 27 years later, here I am still doing it and now training people and, running the team lead. I'm the team lead for the two offices. And it's like, teaching account managers how to make their lives easier, teaching producers or begging producers to get you what you need to complete a submission. But yeah, and you just sit there and you're like, I don't picture myself doing anything else. Absolutely.
So, a lot of times when we ask insurance professionals, how did you get into insurance? The most common answer is by accident, and I chose to stay on purpose. Do you feel like you got into insurance by accident?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just wanted some adult
Yeah.
conversation, you know?
Well, I would call that intentional.
It was like, part time, be kind of nice, just a couple days a week, a couple hours a day, and then boom. And like I said, 27, well, this will be 28 this year. It's 28 years.
Wow. So, at what point along the way in your career do you feel like you made the decision to stay? Because some people get into it by accident and they don't stay. Because for me, it wasn't immediate. It was maybe 5 to 7 years into an insurance career. At that point, it was just an insurance job for me. It wasn't a career yet. But it wasn't until maybe 5 or 7 years where I went, oh, I really like this. And I think I'm going to make something out of it.
I have to agree with that because it wasn't right away. But then you start meeting, doing personal lines, you get into a real close relationship with some of your clients. And I just had some really awesome clients starting out. And I was blessed with the most amazing lady, the owner of the agency I worked with. She taught me so much. And then when I moved to New Mexico from Northern Nevada and I brought my resume into this agency, and it was just the Kaiser agency, hometown, the Mr. Kaiser opened it in 1958 and just grew from there. And Bob, my boss now, and I'm his account manager, the owner, agency owner, and he's just been the same. And it was like getting into agencies like this when my son was younger, I'd never missed out on anything. It was so flexible that I could go to plays at the school when he was younger, and then sports when he got older. And then when I moved here, we moved here and he was 13, starting junior high. And Bob said, I said, hey, I have a son, he plays sports. And he goes, well, if your family's not the most important thing in your life, then this is not the place for you to work. And our motto is always God, family, and then work, because it can take a lot of your time. So it's been so flexible. And then you just get to meet such amazing people. And I still have people. I've been in New Mexico for 16 years now, and I still have clients from my past job. I still keep in touch with them, and I don't know, it's just a special kind of relationship that you get to build with people, and even underwriters and carriers and just all of
Right.
it. It's like
Oh my gosh.
friends.
I agree with that so much. That probably speaks to exactly what I try to articulate, but fail on so many levels every time somebody's like, well, why did you choose to stay? And, my brain short circuits and I go into professional type speak instead of being like, it's the heartfelt stuff that just makes it stick for you. And
Yeah, I still have a relationship with one of my personal lines underwriters from Nationwide Insurance. I still keep in contact with her after, gosh, 20 years, I don't know. It's just amazing. And I've just met some really, really amazing people.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of interesting that a lot of times we end up connecting over something like insurance, but because we all understand the insurance speak, it feels like you have your own little language going on, and that kind of ties you together, even if you don't want to be.
And people look at you like, seriously, you guys are having a good conversation about insurance?
Exactly. My husband doesn't get it at all. There's a defining moment in my career where he was just like, "Oh my God, you're hopeless."
Well, my husband came home from work one day and he goes, well, I talked to so and so, and I let him know he had to get another windshield and he's met his deductible for the year. And I'm like, please don't do that for me because that's not how it works.
Oh
It's not health
no.
insurance. You don't get one
Right?
deductible.
Oh my
And
gosh.
he's like,
Oh my gosh.
oh, he's like, please don't help me out because you're not helping me out
You're
at
not
all.
helping. That's a great little entry into our conversation today about client misinformation. There are so many avenues
Oh
that
my God.
our clients have access to, especially now in the age of the internet and, Google everything. It's like WebMDing your ailment. You're going to
Yeah,
end up with cancer probably if you WebMD your,
exactly.
whatever symptom you have. And so no, it's the same for clients with insurance. They have a little accident, or maybe one of their friends had an accident, or maybe their renewal is coming up. And instead of calling their agent and asking why did my rates go up or what's going on, they Google it.
Hmm.
And they end up with all kinds of misinformation, or some of my favorite ones is your referral sources for maybe lenders and other business professionals, where they get a hold of your insurance, your client's insurance, as they're starting the closing process, and they go, oh, your rates are too high, I've seen something lower than that.
Right.
And you're just like, oh my God, I'm not telling you how to do your job, can you please keep your nose out of my client's business? Now I get that it's a great little source for the client to go and ask questions, but a lot of times they end up with some bad information out of there.
That literally just happened last week. I have a commercial account and I still keep involved with their personal lines too. And so they're getting ready to buy a new house, and so we did it. And then their real estate agent said, "Oh, you should get more quotes, because what if you can get it cheaper?" And I told my client, I said, "Is cheaper always better?" Because it's not just about the cost; it's what are you covering, and as an independent agent, we get to have access to more than one carrier. So we did quote it more than one carrier, but I was like, I wanted to call the real estate agent and say, stop doing that because you're not helping these people out. Just because
Right.
it's cheap, you sometimes you get what you pay for too.
Exactly. So that brings up another quote. I can't remember. I wrote it down here, but I can't remember if it's from your video or not. That says, "Nobody wants insurance until there's a claim, and then you want
True,
somebody." When you
true.
said you get what you pay for, is cheaper always better? That's exactly the point. I mean, it's not just when clients Google and or they get bad information from another business source or whatever. It's the
Mhm.
commercials on TV too. It's the ones that say pay for what you want, or whatever those slogans are. I can't recall any of them too, but
Right. Name
custom,
your price.
exactly, name your price, customize your insurance. They don't even know what's on their insurance, so how do they know how to customize it? I mean, it's not like pulling up to a McDonald's window and customizing your Big Mac.
Right. Well, and you don't know what kind of coverage you need until you have a professional saying, okay, this is what this is for, and this is what that is for. And,
Right.
and yeah, I'm like, you're right. It's not a Big Mac. You can't order it without pickles. I
Right.
mean,
You know what a pickle is, but do you know what sump pump backup is? No. So stop trying to remove it.
yeah,
You don't know what special personal property is. I'll be happy to explain it with you, but for the
right.
$25 that it's adding on your policy, stop trying to remove it, okay? So misinformation has always been out there. It's nothing new, but we're in the age of social media, likes and shares. And one thing that really got my ears burning on this topic after watching your video, and then some things that were happening, especially after 2020. There was a ton of stuff
Hmm.
that happened in 2020. But one thing in particular was there were riots and stuff that were occurring because of social unrest. People's homes were getting vandalized about certain social situations. There were businesses that were being vandalized and burned down for certain social and political situations. It was just a bad year altogether. Can we just erase 2020 from the history book? But one thing that really got to me was a friend that I don't talk to very often. She's a real estate agent, or maybe kind of dabbles in real estate a little bit. But she sends me out of the blue a message on Facebook and says, I need your opinion. I'm like, okay, sure, what's up? And she sends me a clip of something. It's words on a screen. And she says, is this true? And I read it and I'm like, okay, I'm going to need you to be more specific with your question. But let me read it to you. So, what it says is, I'm not sure if it's because of the massive payouts of the insurance companies and what they had to give out for extensive damage to the riots, but the government gave the green light for insurance. The government gave the green light for insurance companies to increase their property and home insurance rates by 21%. Be prepared for your monthly escrow to increase. They didn't say anything about insurance increasing, but I mean, what's more, everybody knows about insurance and how much it costs. But what's more scary is the next line. As for investors, save your money. There should be a lot of foreclosed houses to purchase soon. What an egregiously fear provoking statement.
Wow.
I mean, there's so much wrong with that statement. Instead of saying, call your agent, your rates might go up this year, which is a thing. I mean, in the 15 years that I've been doing this, I think there's only once that I've seen a carrier, twice maybe, and probably understating it a little bit, take a rate decrease. Oh my gosh. I got so, she said, well, is this true? And I'm like, all right, you're going to have to bear with me for a minute because this is a loaded question. And I'm about to get on a really tall soapbox so I can shout it to the people in the back. That's a lot for account managers to have to deal with. And a lot of times when our clients get a hold of something like this, they think to call their insurance agent, but they're already emotionally triggered. So a lot of times we get on the phone with our clients, and customer service agents or uh, agents that are forward facing for their clients, they end up having to basically play therapist with their clients and really engage some conflict mediation style dialect to calm them back down and get over here's one thing that I've learned with my kids, and one of them going to therapy. is that when somebody's triggered, their ears are turned off. They're not listening. And so you have to calm them down enough in order to be like, okay, are we good? Now let's talk about the real information. Do you feel like you're having to do that a lot with your clients in order to overcome some of this stuff that can really be triggering some fear in them?
Oh, absolutely. Because if it's on Facebook, it must be true,
Oh, for real though.
right? If it's on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, it's got to be true, right? I mean,
And if
this
it
is
was shared by my Aunt Sally, it has to be true.
and it's you're right. You play therapist, and you're like, okay, let's talk about this. Calm down. You let them rant and rave, and you smile, and you're thinking in your head, dear God, what have I got myself into today?
Oh my gosh.
And then trying to calm them down, and then you have to really be patient because they truly do not understand it. And I use the thing of I always think in my head, if I wasn't in this business, if I really didn't know what I was doing, how would I respond to this? If you don't know what's going on, how was it before? Because I found out all kinds of information that was misconstrued before I got into the business.
Right. Well, I mean, it happens even when you're in the business. That's
Yes.
what insurance education is for. A lot of times, and this is a random offshoot here, but agents don't like having to do CE in order to keep their license up to date. It's
Right.
just an inconvenience. But instead of seeing it as an inconvenience, they need to be seeing it as an opportunity to ensure that the information they're giving to their clients is correct. Because I can't tell you
Exactly.
how many times you've been in this business a lot longer than me. But I can't tell you how many times I thought I had something solid. I thought I had it figured out. And then I just heard it said a different way. And suddenly my mind is blown. And I'm like, well, that changes everything.
Yeah. And we do that a lot here. We're like, okay, when we have someone runs into a problem, let's get together and talk about it and get different viewpoints because, this person's been doing it for this long and this long. And, you have so many different, what I hear or understand might be different than someone else. So if you can all get together and really discuss and figure out that serious issue.
Right, absolutely. So, it's not just overcoming the client's fear a lot of times when they get this bad information or just get triggered. It might not even be bad information. We were talking about the realtors or the title mortgage brokers, whomever,
Mhm.
that go, oh, your rate's a lot higher. I just closed on a house that's bigger than yours, and the rate was much lower. There's a couple of different ways to approach that. One is to, in my opinion, is to contact whomever that mortgage broker, because you're going to be in contact with them anyways as you're getting them proof of insurance and all of that. And be
Right.
like, hey, I really appreciate how concerned you are for my client. Thank you so much for starting the dialogue. Let me help you out. Maybe that's not the best way to say. Let me help you out a little bit and let's change your dialogue a little bit. Instead of telling somebody that their rate is too high, maybe you should say, you mind calling your insurance agent and talking to them about your insurance rate?
Right. And I always like to say, I'm not sure what kind of coverages they have, but let me show you what this policy is going to cover for you. And I like to try to use you can't compare apples and oranges.
Right.
The coverage they have could be an HO3 where we've offered you an HO5,
Right. Yep.
extended coverage and this and that and bells and whistles and, you know, underground plumbing and overhead power line, all of that. That's stuff that is normally not covered. And you have to defend yourself 90% of the time.
Yes. So I find a lot of times that when talking with clients, in order to help put this fire out and calm them down and reinstill their trust in me, in order to overcome all of that, I have to meet it with fact. But in order to meet it with fact, I have to then convert that factual language into a language that they're going to understand. So
Right.
us as agents, we understand rate filings and how to go to our insurance departments and find those rate filings if our carriers aren't, directly communicating them to us to begin with. I hope eventually that people that aren't in insurance might listen to this podcast, but I'm not going to hold my breath. but but I just hope that people eventually get the understanding that just because a carrier says they're going to have a 15% rate increase doesn't mean that you're going to get hit by a 15%
Right.
rate increase.
That's what is hard to express too.
So I went out and I started looking in Arkansas for our rate increases. And I did some quick poking around on rate trends. So I sent all of that information back to my friend. I'm like, I checked the rate filings. I really don't know, what angle. She's a real estate agent. So I'm assuming that she's afraid that her clients are going to be calling her saying, "What about my homeowners?" Or she needs to counsel her clients. And anyways, but that in Arkansas, the highest rate filing that I found approved in 2021 so far was 9.9%, with the lowest being 2.9%. And then if I go back one more year on homeowners, since that's what this text was about, is the reason
Mhm.
why I focused on homeowners. The highest in 2020 was 15.1 with a low of 1.96. So this is the type of information that you have available to you as an agent that you have to try and disseminate to your clients to let them know. Number one, the government doesn't give broad sweeping approvals
Right.
for a 21% rate increase. Number two, there's regions in this United States of ours, and every region has different risk factors. Arkansas or Texas even never thought that freezing and ice was going to be a risk factor for them.
Well, that's been crazy going on right
I
now.
know. So I mean that's the thing though. That's the information that we have to get out there to our
Mhm.
clients, and it's our responsibility as agents to mitigate that for them and bring that to their knowledge. So talk to me about ways, and what do you pull out of your arsenal of professional knowledge when a client calls you?
It's hard, like we talked about being personal lines. I haven't done it for so long. And the commercial lines industry is so different than personal lines, but we have to go through the same thing. The increases that we are seeing in commercial lines is insane. I think a lot of it is, and this is my personal opinion, not the opinion of the agency. I think there's too many lawyers out there on TV, and I think that's a lot of our problem in society is it's you can't take responsibility for what you've done. It's always someone else's fault. So let's sue everybody, and then we don't realize that that really is going to increase rates all around the board.
Right.
You know,
How many times did you see? I don't know if you paid attention to many message boards or anything throughout the social unrest and the riots, that people would justify the damage that was being caused to businesses and homes because they go, "Oh, it's fine. They have insurance. They'll pay it."
right? And it's like, do you comprehend that? Yeah, okay, that is going to be possibly a covered claim. I'm not a claims adjuster, so I won't say it is, but you
Right,
know,
right, right.
possibly a covered claim. But where do you think that insurance company is going to have to make up that money later on down the road? They are
Exactly.
going to
That's
have to increase rates because money. I mean, they just think that okay, I've paid all of this money into my insurance. Okay, but there's also expenses for an insurance company as there is for any other business or any other home or household. Everybody's going to have to pay for it. It's normal. If the price of gas goes up, it's going to go down to the expense has to come from that trucking company into the grocery store or other retail stores. They have to make that up somehow, and then it follows down to us. It's just the same as insurance. It's not like we have a magic machine in the back that prints up the money and the checks to pay the claim.
right.
It's got to come from somewhere.
But what kind of other areas of misinformation do you see in commercial lines? I know in personal lines, and give you some examples to maybe help you rack your brain real quick. But in personal lines, it's not just about rates and stuff that goes around on social media, but it's when somebody closes or getting close to closing on a loan, and we've got to combat market value or mortgage loan amount
Mhm.
versus replacement cost.
Oh,
You
that.
and you
Oh,
am I gonna get you fired up because I can feel it in
yeah.
my body
Yeah. You see,
right now.
I am in commercial lines, but I have a lot of commercial accounts that have their homes and their personal homes or whatever with our agency too, and they still rely on me to make sure everything's okay. So you have this home and it's a beautiful 5,500 square foot home, and replacement cost is $600,000, $700,000. It's a custom home. It's not like a little shack on the side of the
Oh, I
street. It's
I would have
a
shot it into
beautiful
like
home.
8 or 9 depending
Yeah.
on, the
Well, it only
customization of it.
appraises for this. Well, unfortunately, the appraisal value and the replacement cost are not the same. If
Right.
your home were to burn down, it would probably cost the carrier this much money to rebuild it as it was when it burnt down.
Right. And not only that, how about if your home is due, like, I don't know, do y'all get wildfires there in New Mexico?
Not really.
Not really. What if your home is, part of, we get a lot of tornadoes here in Arkansas. There's a lot of tornadoes in Texas. What if your home is part of a massive destruction loss, a cat loss?
Yeah.
And it's not just your home, it's your neighbor's home, it's your neighborhood that got taken out. Well, now, because of supply and demand, your cost is going up. Your
Mhm.
replacement cost is fluid. It's not stagnant, so yeah, that's another piece of the information that we have to hand over to our clients. They don't want to listen to it
Contractors could
very
go,
much.
"Oh, could be very lucrative for me."
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a reason why there's anti-gouging laws out there.
Right.
It's not because it doesn't happen.
And one thing we noticed in 2020 is the loss of business income with COVID. Yes, unfortunately, you did lose business, but unfortunately, there's no direct physical loss to your building. There's not coverage for that.
Right. That's not necessarily.
Oh, it was heartbreaking to tell people this.
Oh,
I love my clients. I adore 99% of them. There's always that one or two out there that kind of get under your skin, but
right.
I want the best for all my clients. And it was so hard to tell them, no, there is not coverage. Well, it was, we got shut down. Unfortunately, there's no a direct physical loss to your building. There is not an endorsement, there is not a coverage, there's not a carrier out there that could
Yeah.
cover that kind of a loss. Insurance does not cover everything. There is no policy to cover everything. It's just
Yes.
not feasible, it's not possible. It just can't be done.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to accept some of life's risks out there.
Right. That's one of the very important, I think, conversations to have with clients. It's another message to don't take CE for granted, or, stay connected with the insurance magazines and the blogs and all of that kind of stuff to just see what's trending with other insurance agencies and other insurance customers so that you kind of stay ahead of the curve on that.
Because
Um,
change so much. I mean, it don't matter if you've been in the business for 5 years, 30 years, 50 years. It's not the same as it was last week, to be honest.
right, right. Do y'all get a lot of hail in New Mexico?
I'm not where we're at.
Do
More
y'all get anything in New Mexico?
we get a lot of heat.
So your plants die. Oh my gosh. Here in
Yeah,
Arkansas,
since
I
I
think
have
it's
rocks in my
Arkansas.
yard.
All right. Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri. We get all 4 seasons every month of the
Yeah.
year.
We were laughing. I grew up, like I said, in Wyoming, and there's 2 seasons, July and winter, and that's about it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But I think I saw a joke there was something on Facebook that I just saw this morning, maybe last night. It was on one of the Facebook groups that I'm in. Anyways, it was a meme of Texas agents, God bless them, bless their hearts, and everybody that's
Mhm.
going through everything down there in Texas. But it was this little vague character, and he's reaching for this golden egg that says, and behind him, there's this ominous creature, but he's reaching for this golden egg, and the golden egg says, just got to contacting all of my clients to see if they have any water damage. And he's almost reaching this, like he can almost get back to normal business as usual. And then this ominous creature comes and grabs him and says, "Welcome to hell season." And, pulls him back because hailstorms are going to start. You just got
Yep,
done contacting all of your clients, and now the next rounds of storms are going to begin.
that's how it
Um,
rolls for sure.
right. But yeah, so that's what it is.
It's crazy. It's a crazy industry. It's
Yes,
fun, but
it
crazy at times.
is. Yeah, attorneys are another problem too. You brought up attorneys, well, earlier talking about insurance, and sometimes I just want to call an attorney and go, I'm not an attorney. but you need to stay in your lane. Yeah, as I say that, that's another point too, that as we're talking about the misinformation that other people give our clients, sometimes agents accidentally or maybe even on purpose give their clients information that they shouldn't. We're not attorneys. We're not adjusters.
Right. Right.
And we don't need to be crossing our lanes. We're not realtors or mortgage lenders or,
Nope.
or anybody else. But most importantly, we're not attorneys.
Right. And in commercial lines, you get that. It's like, can you look at this MSA, a master service agreement? And I'm like, no, I cannot because I am not an attorney, but I can tell you your insurance, their requirements, your insurance meets their requirements. So, but
Yes.
no, I can't
Yes.
read your master service agreement because I'm not an attorney. And, or I even remember back in personal lines, well, who do you think I should go get my car fixed at? And I'm like, I can't tell you that because I don't know their reputation. What if they destroy something or they don't do something right? You're going to come back at me and say, hey, you told me I should go here.
You're right. Yes. Even if
And
they're
you
reputable, it'd
know,
be that one time you do make the referral that they mess it up. And
yeah. So I don't refer, I can say, hey, here's a list of people that you could give a call to, but I can't tell you who to go to have that fixed or who to have come over and fix your roof or your water damage or anything else. I can't do that. I can't put myself out there for that. And it's really sad because you look now, you're like, if I say something, it could be an E&O on me. And it's really hard. You have to really be careful what you say. And it goes back to people taking responsibility for their own actions and their own lives.
yeah, I just had a friend who was a client of mine. Of course, I'm not involved in the agency anymore, but I have a lot of clients that still will reach out to me and just go, "Can I just get a little bit of advice?" And I'll go, "Well,
Yeah.
what's going on? Let me see if I can help direct you back to your agent because,
Right.
I'm not your agent anymore." But she's a particularly good friend. She's the godmother to my kids. So, I'm going to
Hmm.
help her out and give her a little
Right.
advice. But she was struggling to navigate the med pay part of the at fault carrier. And she contacted, yeah, this is how, information, this is how bad
Mhm.
information gets out there. And she contacted an attorney friend of hers, because we're all contacting friends these days. Anyways, she
Right.
contacted an attorney friend of hers who literally told her. Now, I wrote her policy, so I knew the information in my head, but I started, who's that
Question.
attorney friend, right? She said, this attorney told her, you have med pay on your automobile policy and you can file a claim on that. And I'm like, shut the front door. Because
Right.
number one, she didn't have a copy of your policy in her hand. She had
Right.
no business telling you that you had med pay on your policy because you might have actually rejected it.
Right.
So I was just so
Yeah.
furious. But that's what I mean by stay in your lane and know
Stay in
what
your
you're
lane. You
doing.
do you, and I'll do me. Let me be the insurance, and you go ahead and
Yeah.
be the attorney.
Yes, like thank you so much for going to school and getting your Juris Doctorate and being what you are for the community. And thank you so much for picking up that phone call and answering her in her time of need. But please stop telling people they've got med pay on their policy.
Because you don't know. You don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't know if they do or
So,
not. Anyway, she did have med pay. So, it was all good. And I told her, how she could help navigate that. But then her next question was, well, should I have hire an attorney or not? I'm like, well, that I cannot tell you. I'm going to have to tell you that you need to consult with an attorney about what all your options are.
right. Right.
Communication is such a big part of not only insurance, but just everyday life. When you think
Right.
about that, you've been in this for 27 years. Surely you've picked up some communication tips and, you know, bullets along the way that are just your go tos. Do you have any communication tips for anybody?
It honestly, you just really have to read that person for a minute before, because this person you might be able to talk this way to, but this one might be straightforward, no wavering, no joking, no, there's just, you really have to read that person and really understand their
Yeah.
personality before you can even go. Because you have, this, you have some clients you can joke with this way, and then you have other ones that are, this is serious and this is straight and to the point, or you can have a more personal conversation. I had one yesterday. We had a client come in and it was, do you want to take the 3-year guaranteed rate or do you want to go with the 1-year rate? And he goes, what would you do? I said, personally, I think I would take the guaranteed 3-year rate because who knows what's going to happen in the next few years.
Right.
We are seeing some trends that things are going up. So I personally would want the guaranteed 3-year rate. And he goes, okay, cool, but then the next one, it's going to be all about that bottom dollar. And no, he doesn't want that 3-year rate because I can save $350 for the year if I go with a 1-year rate. So
Isn't that one of the most nerve-wracking questions? Like, you know what you're doing, you know your insurance stuff, but when
yeah,
somebody says, what would you do?
you're like, dang it, why do I have to answer this?
And that got me triggered just then because I took it happens everywhere. I took one of my kids to the doctor this week, getting a consultation for tubes in her ears. And I don't know what to do. I don't know what all that stuff is. And I literally looked at the doctor and said, if this was your kid, what would you do?
Right. And you're like, well, because you are a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how
Right.
to assess the situation,
Right.
and
But then how much that falls back on him, though, if she experiences any, adverse reaction to anesthesia. She's never been under anesthesia before. So, and then you're like, the next time you go into the doctor's office, you're like, you
you
told
told
me
me.
you
You
told
told
me you would do this. Right.
me.
Okay, so I feel like our conversation has gone really well about, just the bad information that's out there that our clients have access to. It's not going to end anytime soon. In
No.
fact, it's going to get worse. The more access that we have to social media platforms, yeah, it's never been worse than it is now, just because somebody doesn't
Yes.
have to pick up the phone and say, hey, guess what I heard from Sally Sue over there that got her roof replaced. It doesn't take very much effort to share a post. It doesn't take very
Right.
much effort for a friend to shoot you a meme and say, the government said rates are going up 21%. That's ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, it was on Facebook. It must be true.
Yes. It was on the news. It must be true.
Yeah. Right. It was on the
we,
news.
we won't go down that one. So I've got these fun little cards on my desk as we're wrapping up this conversation here. Nothing about insurance, but just to get to know Judy a little bit. And so I picked out a couple. I've been shuffling through these.
I've been told I'm crazy, so
Aren't we all though? I
Yeah,
think in any profession there's crazy people everywhere, but insurance people have to be a special kind of crazy, just like you said.
that's right. That's what it
So I
called.
have this card here, and it says, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Are we ever fully grown up?
Well, I'm a grandma now, so I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I want to just continue being a grandma because it is the funnest experience ever,
Oh,
ever.
how many grandbabies do you have?
I have 3. I have a bonus daughter, just a young lady that's come into my life about 11 years ago, and she has 2. And my son, I have my one biological son, and he has a almost 3-year-old little girl. And oh my gosh, I was with her last night, and she just, my heart explodes. So I want to keep being a Mimi when I grow
Oh,
up.
you want to be a Mimi when you grow up. I love it. Here's another one. What's your favorite day of the week?
I have to say Wednesday because I walk in the office on Wednesdays and all the girls here, they look at me and they go, what day is it? And I do the hump day, and they just think that's the funniest thing ever. So
Yeah, Mike,
yeah,
Mike, 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 Mike.
Mike,
It's
Mike,
hump.
Mike, bye.
It's
Yeah,
hump day.
hump day.
Oh, that's funny. My favorite day used to be Friday. Obviously, it's almost the weekend. Now
Yeah,
my favorite days are Mondays. There's just been this shift in the way workflows go where nobody knows what they need from you on Monday, but they all know what they need from you by Friday.
that is a true story
And they want it by Friday, close of business.
because we
So,
live at Florence, so at 3:45, we get a lot of emails and calls.
oh,
Yeah,
right. Yes. And it's the bad information call that comes in at
right.
4:45.
Oh, by the way, I just bought a $3 million building in a protection class 10. Can you get me coverage?
Right.
Um,
And my mortgage broker says that it's only worth 2.2 million. So
right.
I don't need replacement cost on it, by the way. Last one. What is one thing you want to achieve before you finish your career?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I really think it would be awesome. and I don't know how to accomplish it. I don't know how to even start it, is getting this business out to kids graduating high school and stuff. There's so much you can accomplish in this business, and there's not young people here. And I think it would be great if we could get the next generation in here,
Right. Thank
really
you so much for saying that. That's
get the information out, because
yes,
there's so much out there. And my son even said, well, Mom, I wouldn't want to sit behind a desk all day. And I'm like, there's so much more to it than what I do.
yes. Oh my
I
gosh.
could not be a producer because I would be really sad if someone told me no, that I couldn't quote their insurance, or couldn't work on their stuff. I like doing what I do. And there's so many there's marketing reps, there's claims adjusters, there's producers,
There's
there's underwriters.
actuaries. Oh,
Actually, there's so much out
you
there.
don't want to sit behind the desk, become a field adjuster. There you go.
Exactly. There's the loss control and the safety and this. There's just so much that could be done.
Become
So
a risk manager or risk advisor. Go out and
mhm,
start, doing inspections and stuff. There's so much to do in
so much
insurance and
out
so
there.
many
And
different.
I think we
Yeah,
do need to get a younger generation in here.
you're right. You're right. You're right. So that's your goal, to get that information out there.
Hopefully. I mean, I'd love to say yes. I would work on it for sure. There's I know there's a lot of programs out there, and I think it's just been hard because last year was just a mess. We
Can you
couldn't.
see me in the camera? We have one. We have a high school program here at the National Alliance. I would love to talk with you more about maybe ways
Oh,
that
that
you
would be
can.
cool. Yeah, I
Yes,
put it out there for this younger generation because like we said, there's so much you can do.
yes, there really is. Not just the younger generation in high school. I love that we're getting into some of the high schools and being able to talk about how fun it is,
Yeah.
how fun it can be, because
Right, right.
I think, back when did I say it at the beginning? A lot of times, I may not have, but a lot of times when you ask an insurance professional how they got into it by accident. They chose to stay on purpose. We did talk about that. But now, all of the education that is out there now, and all of the different ways that we can communicate now, whether it's via podcast or blog posts or Facebook or,
Right.
whatever, we have the ability, our generation now, your generation, my generation, our generation of active agents right now
Mhm.
have the ability to get people into insurance on purpose. And
Right.
that, I don't even know what that would look like, because we just don't have a lot of people that do it on purpose. But my gosh, if we're this passionate by getting into it on accident, can you
Right.
imagine how passionate somebody's going to be if they do it on purpose?
If they could really see what it has to offer,
It
there's a
has
lot.
so much. It has
Yeah.
Judy's to offer, because Judy is an amazing person. I am so excited that you won the outstanding CSR of the year. I'm sorry, stumbling over my words. The outstanding CSR of the year. Otherwise, I don't know that I would have gotten the chance to meet you. I'm sure we would have crossed paths somewhere along the way. But I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today, and I know it was a really guided conversation about a specific topic, but I would just love to have more conversations with you, because I feel like you've got so much experience and just stories to tell that would just make the world of a difference to anybody that's new or even experienced in insurance. So thank you so much for being on Awkward Insurance with us today. Before we close, do you have any final thoughts or soapboxes that you want to get on or climb off of?
Just be good to people. Just be kind and love each other. This world's already messed up enough.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Judy. I really am honored to have had you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for hanging around and listening to another awkward conversation in insurance. Stay tuned for new episodes from Awkward Insurance wherever you listen to your podcasts. And be sure to check out the National Alliance on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or at scic.com. Now go forth and be awkward. Toodles!